What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be breaking down some of DK Metcalf's most creative route running. So we're going to be talking about how you guys can beat a press bail DB by attacking the blind spot. We're going to talk about how you guys can run a perfect fade route versus a coverage where this DB is kind of like 3 yards off and you don't want to just run into him. And then we're going to be talking about how you guys can put the brakes on a dime and run an inside breaking route versus inside leverage. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it teaches you a few new things about route running and why DK Metcalf is so talented. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you need to get faster, you want to get more explosive, you want to be able to improve your balance, all the things that translate to on-field play, check out that very first link in the description below for our 12-week wide receiver gym workout plan. There's over 200 plus exercises in here, all mapped out for you guys with sets, reps, and examples of each exercise on a daily basis. These are wide receiver specific gym workouts that you guys can do. Let's get started with this video, very first link below. So now, first route here is going to be like a stutter go stop. Now, you would want to treat this almost like a curl route when you have this press bail look because it's an inside. We want to treat it like it's an inside breaking route, right? So when I have a DB who's lined up pre-snap like this, with his eyes facing that QB, his eyes are located to the inside, usually what does that mean? That means that it's probably zone coverage. When it's man coverage, a DB is going to give something away with his eyes. The DB has man eyes and a DB has zone eyes. So he would, if this was man coverage, he would probably be a little bit more squared up, hips and shoulders would be facing Metcalf, and his eyes would be trying to watch Metcalf's hips because that's his man. He's got to stay with his man. He's got to be able to stick with his man. But when we see pre-snap that his eyes are in the backfield, and we know that he's probably like head up. He's not necessarily shaded to the outside because that could be like cover 2, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is probably like a press bail look. So we know when there's a press bail, what is that DB usually going to have? Or if it's zone where he's 70 yards off, what's that zone called? And I mentioned it at the very beginning, the blind spot, right? So we know that this DB has an area because his back is turned. He's not squaring me up, called a blind spot, to where he cannot see me. So what Metcalf does a great job of is bursting upfield, attacking the distance, giving a little stutter, and then attacking the blind spot and getting that DB to bail. Now, this builds off of a stutter go. This is called the Stutter Go Stop. So anytime that I run this Stutter Go Stop, it is so important that I'm making it look like just a hitch. I'm making it look like a stutter go, right? So when he gets up into this break, he gives that little hip drop, little change of direction, get that DB to stop his feet. And then it is super important, fellas, that I burst up to that blind spot and really threaten him with that fade. Because when you're in that blind spot, this DB is going off of feel. He cannot see you. That's why they call it the blind spot. So anytime you're attacking a blind spot, maybe you're attacking the blind spot to get the DB to bail so you could run a post, so you could run a dig, whatever it might be. But we have to have speed and we have to be able to sell the fade. And so how Metcalf sells the fade right here, it's very good that he does this because we're going to talk about this on another example, is he tucks his head down. He dips his head. He takes full strides. He's actually trying to accelerate to get that DB to move. Now, a lot of people criticize him for his breaks at the top of the route. Like he's very, very like choppy. He's very slow with what he does, I guess you can say. But one of the main things that you got to understand is that it's not about the amount of steps that you take at the top of the break. Yes, everybody would love to take a perfect amount of steps, 2 steps, 3 steps, hell, even 1 step. But it's unrealistic when you're running very hard, especially if you maybe don't have, if you're a taller guy, if you're a bigger wide receiver. But as long as you are selling fade and you could get out in the least amount of time possible, you will be able to get space. So selling fade, get this DB to bail, make it look like it's a stutter go. Now, when he drops into this break, you see how he kind of takes some choppy steps right there. Honestly, I don't mind the choppy steps only because if you're a wide receiver and maybe you're a taller side of things, it's harder for you to drop low. How you eliminate those extra choppy steps is by dropping your pad level down, bringing your chin to your knee. At that break point, rather than him snapping down and being kind of tall right here with his hips, if he could drop his butt down a little bit more and get lower, those extra steps would be eliminated because he could just slam his feet into the grass and drive out. Now, when you're on the taller side of things, it's a lot easier said than done to drop lower into the break. Some guys are just because they're taller, maybe they're naturally a little bit more stiff at their hips, and that's something you could work on. Or maybe they just struggle getting low because they're 6 foot plus, right? So it's just that finding that balance of not worrying about steps so much do you start to slow down? Because I know a lot of big wide receivers, what they'll do in this case when they got to put the brakes on is that they will start to slow down because they're so worried about, oh, well, my coach said I got to get out in 3 steps. It's not about the steps, fellas. It is about eliminating wasted time at the top of the break. And this is a great example of that by Metcalf of how you can get separation even if you take maybe some extra steps. We'd love to eliminate it, but it's about selling fade, knowing how to run the route, and having that route running IQ. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great example here of using this stutter go stop, making the stutter look like a hitch, putting the brakes on, and then coming back right to that ball. Great route there by Metcalf. So now, second route I want to talk about is this fade route. Now, I think this is a very good release here because, you got inside shade coverage. How do we know it's inside shade? You could tell because like the midline of this DB is even with the front foot of Metcalf. That's how we know that a DB has inside leverage. So when he's inside leverage, why is he inside leverage? What is he trying to protect here? He's trying to protect the inside. He does not want Metcalf to run a slant. He does not want him to run a post. He wants to do whatever possible to force Metcalf to that sideline so the QB has no space to lead him. And look at the alignment of the wide receiver. He's lined up on the bottom of the numbers. So when you're on the bottom of the numbers, you already to begin with don't have that much space outside. So Peterson, I guarantee you, is going to be lined up inside shade because when wide receivers are on the bottom of the numbers, usually that means that they're going to be running an inside breaking route. Now, let's play this thing full speed. Metcalf does a great job of attacking the DB, threatening him inside, and then being able to restack and get skinny to give that QB some space to throw him open. So, off the line, they call this kind of like, I call this like a hesitation hop release. Some people call this like a squirt release. Some people call this a burst release. There are many different names for it. But essentially what you're doing is you're attacking the leverage and closing the space with him. So when he's 2 to 3 yards off, maybe 2 yards off, a lot of wide receivers, what they like to do is they'll just throw a jab inside with the front foot and then try to take off and run. But here's the thing. There is too much of a gap between the two of you. If you guys just line up and give a jab and then try to take off and go outside, even if you do get this DB to jump, he's got all kinds of space for him to be able to recover. You still have to get vertical. So we need to close that cushion. We need to try to step on his toes, aka attack his leverage. Now, we know this is a DB. Where is he supposed to be watching? He's supposed to be watching my hips. So anytime that I'm making a release, yeah, I could attack his leverage all day long. I could get him to move off the platform. I could close the space. I could step on his toes, whatever. But when I make that break, I got to make sure that I'm selling the break. And so how I sell the break is by actually threatening him to where he doesn't want me to go, aka stepping with your foot on the cut outside of the DB's frame. Not outside of your frame where you're reaching, but outside of the DB's frame. So you see how Metcalf attacks, and then when he throws this move to the inside, he's actually stepping here. It's not just 2 quick steps in place. So many wide receivers, so many young wide receivers, they'll know how to attack leverage, they'll know how to attack, structure their route, structure the stem, but when it's time to actually make that cut, they don't sell. They don't throw their hip. They don't turn their hips and shoulders. They don't actually step outside that DB's frame because, fellas, trust me, if he's watching your hips and you move like this right here, he has no choice but to honor it because his sole purpose is to not give up the inside. So we attack, let's threaten inside. Let's make it look like we are actually running inside because that is what will get the DB to move and that can get us space. So now, great job right here putting the head down and accelerating also. So a lot of young wide receivers on a fade route, and you'll see this, especially with high school guys and younger guys, that they'll get separation. They'll work a DB off the line. But as soon as we beat him, they start looking back for the ball. Fellas, on a fade, a QB is not going to throw the ball like that. He's going to put it to a spot. Our job is to go get the spot. Now, again, a lot of it's important that you have chemistry with your QB. You know where he's going to put that ball so you guys have that relationship. But you can't look back right away. Because trust me on this, a DB knows he got beat, especially when he got worked off the line. So he's going to be doing whatever he can possible to recover. So we got to make sure that I do whatever I can possible to keep the separation. I get separation, but let's keep separation. So Metcalf does a great job keeping his head down, pushing up vertical, and not looking until he has him by a couple of steps, and then being able to fade back out and make this catch because he got skinny due to his release. And by skinny, I mean like a tight angle so the quarterback has space to throw him open over the shoulder. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. That's a great job by Metcalf attacking the leverage of the DB, working him inside, actually threatening him inside, and then being able to win on this fade route. So now, let's talk about this break here. So we have inside leverage, and Metcalf's going to be running that same kind of like stop. Maybe it's a curl route like we were talking about, but it's going to be with a wider stem. So we're going to talk about why you wouldn't maybe want to do this versus when it's just like a regular stop, not with a wide stem, and why this is okay to do with a wide stem. So let's think about this DB. He's inside shade, right? So his sole purpose is to force you to the sideline because the sideline is his help. He does not have help to the inside. The sideline is his help. So Metcalf, when he comes off the line, he just goes right now, right at the outside shoulder of this DB, puts the brakes on, then is able to stop and make this play, get that first down. So let's talk about it. If you had to run like a fade, or if you had to run just like a regular stop route, not a wide stem stop route where you could take a wider stem. And by stem or wider stem, I just mean like a wider angle towards the sideline. So if you didn't have that situation, this would not work because if you just took off and ran, look at how much Gilmore squeezes him to the sideline. If you had to run a fade like this, if you were just running and the quarterback was expecting you to do a regular stop route, you couldn't just take off and run. You would have to threaten him inside. You would have to do similar to what we just talked about on that fade route versus Peterson. You'd have to attack him and you'd have to threaten him inside to give yourself more space. But because it's a wide stem, it doesn't necessarily matter. You'd want to treat it like it was off man. He's inside shade. You got to run an inside breaking route. That's fine. Let's attack the outside shoulder. Let's try to get his hips to flip. Because if I could get his hips to flip when I attack the outside shoulder, I self-fade, I tuck my head down, my pad level's in a good spot, I'm running full stride, full speed, and then I could put the brakes on a dime, you guaranteed will get separation. But we have to make sure we know how to structure the route, why the DB is playing a certain way, and what's going to beat that route, and then being able to sell the route. Those are the three key things, fellas, on any route. For anybody that's a creative route runner, that is what you have to do. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Metcalf attacking the outside shoulder, forcing the hip flip, and then being able to put those brakes on and get back upfield. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you would like a 12-week wide receiver gym workout plan, everything wide receivers need to do in the gym, from balance exercises, explosive movements, the works with sets, reps, and examples broken down, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.